This is the fifth of 5 short videos reviewing all about fractions. This final video will focus on adding and subtracting fractions. When adding and subtracting fractions, the key is to have a common denominator. So our first example of 2/5 plus 2/5 is pretty much ready to go. We're ready to add the numerators, 2 plus 2 gives 4, and keep that shared denominator of 5 the same. So 4/5 is in lowest terms, and that's the result. But pretty rarely will you have a common denominator, so let's look at a few more examples. Our second example gives 2/3 plus 4/5. Definitely we need to find a common denominator since 3 and 5 are not the same number, least common denominator. And the strategy to find an LCD, again, will vary a little bit from person to person. I'll throw a few ideas out there. So let's think about some multiples of our first denominator of 3. Let's see, 3 times 1 would be 3, 3 times 2 would be 6, 3 times 3 would be 9, 3 times 4, that would be 12, 3 times 5 would be 15, and we could keep going. But let's do the same thing for the other denominator of 5. 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15, 5 times 4 is 20. Oh, well, let's go ahead and stop because we already see that 15 is a shared value in these lists. So the least common multiple is 15 between 3 and 5. And similarly, for our purposes in adding fractions, the least common denominator is 15. So now what we need to do is we need to take each fraction and change it to have the common denominator, but not change the value of the fraction. So when I have my first fraction of 2/3, the denominator of 3 needs to be multiplied by a factor of 5 so that it looks like the LCD of 15. However, if I multiply just the denominator by 5, my fraction has changed. So, in order to keep it the same equivalent fraction, I just also multiply in the numerator by 5. So again, remember that 5 over 5 is just 1, so I really just multiplied the fraction by 1. Multiplying by 1 never hurt anything, so that's all good. Our second fraction has the 5 in the denominator, so it needs a factor of 3. Now again, if I give it in the denominator, I must give it to the numerator so that I have an equivalent fraction. Remember, 3 over 3 is the same as multiplying by 1. If I clean up the process we now have, I'm looking at 10 over 15 plus 12 over 15, and we have that common denominator. So, adding the numerators, 10 plus 12 gives 22. That's all over the common denominator of 15. And I'll leave this as something for you to check for yourself, but 22 over 15 as a mixed number would be 1 and 7/15. And that would be the final result for this one. So let's try another one. This one is going to be involving two mixed numbers. So we have 3 and 5/6 being added with 2 and 1/4. So you could either convert these to improper or you can work with them as mixed numbers. I'm going to go ahead and work with them as mixed numbers in this case. And then the next one I'll change them to improper. So 3 and 5/6 and 2 and 1/4, I need to find the least common denominator between 6 and 4. And without too much trouble, we could find that the first number, 6 and 4, can both multiply up to is 12. So I need to show changing the denominator of 6 to look like 12 from the first fraction, and then also changing the denominator of 4 to look like 12. So to get 6 to look like 12, I need to times it by 2. If I do that in the denominator, make sure you do it to the numerator. Over here at 2 and 1/4, 4 needs to be multiplied by 3 to look like 12, and I'll give it to the numerator as well. Cleaning up, I now have 3 and 10 over 12 plus 2 and 3 over 12. And when you're adding with mixed numbers, we just add the whole numbers out front. So in this case, 3 and 2 give 5. And then we add the fractional parts. So 10/12 and 3/12 just gives us 13/12. So now I have a kind of funny looking answer of 5 and 13/12. 13/12 though is improper. Remember that 13/12 is really 12/12 and 1/12. So this is actually equivalent to 6 and 1/12. So again, we grab 12/12 as 1, and that left 6/12. So let's just try one more. This one is going to be subtraction, so 10 and 5/11 minus 4 and 19/22. And again, we need a common denominator. After a little bit of investigation, you will find that the least common denominator between 11 and 22 is 22, since we can make 11 look like 22. And just for the sake of example, I'm going to go ahead and change these mixed numbers to improper fractions and work it that way. So when I see 10 and 5/11, changing that to an improper fraction, 11 times 10 is 110 plus 5 gives 115 over 11. And then our second fraction of 4 and 19/22, if I change this to improper, 22 times 4 is 88 plus 19 gives us 107 over 22. And now I'm going to make sure to change that denominator of 11 to look like the LCD of 22. This involves multiplying top and bottom by a factor of 2. So if we clean up where we're at, let's see, 115 times 2 sounds like 230 over 22 minus 107 over 22. So when I subtract the numerators, 230 minus 107, let's see, that gives us 123 over 22. And again, I'll leave this as a fun exercise for you to verify, but if I change that back to a mixed number, that should become, let's see, 5 and 13/22. So adding and subtracting can be a little tricky, but hopefully this helps give you some direction, and you are now ready to find the practice for all about fractions. Have fun!